Cześć, welcome to the channel. My name is Rob, and in today's video we're going to work out why Poland's geography is the worst.
Poland is not yet lost. So says the national anthem of Poland. But Poland's geography doesn't help very much in keeping her safe. Just take a look at this world map and think to yourself, where would the worst possible spawn points for my civilization be at?
Sure,
there's plenty of pretty awful locations, but one of the absolute worst is this general area in Europe. And it's terrible for a very long list of reasons. It's flat in every direction and has no natural protection against outside attackers save for the Baltic in the north or the Carpathian Mountains in the south. But it also has very limited natural resources. Its only access to the sea is in the Baltic, which means that in order to break out into the global ocean, you have to pass through these narrow straits, which presents two additional problems. A, you're at the mercy of whoever is controlling them for trade flowing in and out. And B, all it takes to blockade you is a few ships blocking the way here.
I suppose that is spot on. If you want to go west, if you're Polish ships, obviously countries own the sea close to their land. Now, obviously in this situation, whoever owns this, technically, surely I assume you've got to ask for permission to be able to go through there. I may be wrong, please correct me if I am, but to go through another country's land or sea, you have to have permission to go. So it only takes that country to say, I'm sorry, you're not coming through, for the Poles to be a little bit screwed in terms of trade in the sea, by ship, should I say.
Further, all of the surrounding lands give civilizations starting there better opportunities for expansion. Any civilization to the east can expand way far out into the sparsely populated lands of Asia, while civilizations to the west and the south will have an easier time getting access to better ocean trade routes in the North Sea or the Mediterranean. Any civilization that started here would have a difficult history, and it just so happens that the civilization that did was Poland. So, Poland's greatest geographic challenges to overcome have always been establishing a base on the coast and balancing the area's poorly defensible flat terrain against outside attacks from strong powers in every direction. Swedes and Danes in the north, Russians in the east, Ottomans in the south, and Germans in the west.
I assume it's a bit of a catch-22 though, because you think, well, in terms of, like, in this sense, yes, we've just talked about shipping, but I assume they're going to get to war, right, with the Russians and the Germans. So in that sense, yes, it's potentially easier for the Germans and Russians to invade because it's easy to get across the land. However, it's still a plus side that Poland's really flat because it then should make transportation in Poland easier. You know, you're not having to go through massive mountains or try and traverse awkward terrains, because if it's so flat. So actually, I am like the middle guy here. I am the, what do you call it? I can't remember, the person basically in neutral. But trains, long haul, lorries, things like that, surely that's a benefit. So it's not all bad. Maybe it's not the worst.
The consequences of Poland's geography have led to the modern-day state of Poland being a mere shadow of what it used to be. For a time, Poland was ranked among one of the global great powers, and occupied a truly massive amount of land that stretched from the Baltic to the Black Sea and included all of modern-day Lithuania, Latvia, Belarus, and most of Ukraine, with a good chunk of Russia too that for a time even included Moscow. But neither the Baltic nor the Black are great seas to have access to. We already discussed the problems with the Baltic, but the Black Sea has a very similar problem too. In order to break out into the Mediterranean and the world ocean from there, you have to pass through this extremely narrow strait here, which at the time of Poland's Black Sea access was controlled by the Ottomans, who were almost always a hostile state to Poland. So sea access was always hard for Poland, and consequently, Poland never became a historically significant naval power. And over time, the weak physical geography of Poland led to almost constant attacks from strong outside powers, who combined their forces to overwhelm Poland and her weak natural defenses. At various times, the Swedes, Russians, and Ottomans all took their turns invading and seizing land before the disastrous year of 1772, when the armies of Russia, Prussia, and Austria Austria all joined forces to attack Poland from every direction.
We've learned
Poland
about this.
struggled to defend herself against superior enemy numbers who attacked from 3 different fronts across mostly flat and hard-to-defend terrain. And so, Poland lost, and 1/3 of her land and her population was annexed by the conquerors. Over 20 years later, and still crippled from the last war, Poland was invaded and attacked again from the west and the east by Prussia and Russia, and lost even more land. And smelling the blood of a dying corpse with easy-to-take food, Russia, Prussia, and Austria joined forces again and took over the rest of Poland in 1795, dividing the remaining land between themselves.
And it didn't exist.
Poland's geography was simply overrun, without much to stop or slow down the attackers, and Poland itself ceased to exist as an independent entity for the next 124 years. Poland only regained her full sovereignty from the conquerors in 1919 in the chaotic aftermath of all 3 conquering empires collapsing after World War I, and she immediately found herself in a new war with the Soviet Union.
It never ends.
The Soviets wanted to use the flat land of Poland as a bridge to export the communist revolution to Germany, while the new Polish government wanted to reclaim the lost Polish lands from the 18th century partitions. It kind of went both ways before both sides just agreed to a ceasefire in 1920, which largely established the first iteration of Poland in the 20th century. But this Poland's geographic position was severely flawed. She had only this tiny strip of land to connect to the sea that was flanked on both sides by territory belonging to Germany. She shared 2 long land borders across hard-to-defend terrain with both Germany and Russia, who had both invaded and conquered Poland together before and would.
They're talking a lot about sea trade, but there are plenty of countries that don't have the sea to allow for trade, and potentially have harder. So countries, if you look like Austria, Switzerland, Hungary, they don't have the sea, so they are not trading via the sea. So if you're looking at back on the 1700s, for example, that was surely it was easier for Poland to do things like trade and make money in a sense. I know it's not as practical because they've got to go up the Baltic, but countries that said like Switzerland, Austria, Hungary, for example, they've got less flat land. They haven't got the sea routes as well. So I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of it. I think the title of this video is slightly over the top.
Soon do it once again. After the Nazis took power in Germany and annexed Austria, the Sudetenland, and then occupied the rest of Czechoslovakia, Poland's geographic position became even more tenuous. When the Germans invaded Poland in 1939, after only 19 years of peace in Poland, they could do so from 3 different directions. The west from mainland Germany, the south from occupied Czechoslovakia, and the northeast from German East Prussia, and they could quickly cut off Poland's tiny access to the sea from the 2 flanks. Poland bravely managed to hang on for a while, until the Soviet Union also invaded from the east, and Poland found herself fighting enemies on all sides across hard-to-defend terrain, like a repeat of the 18th century. Poland was conquered and occupied by the Germans and Russians again for another 6 years, before Poland was finally re-established as effectively a satellite puppet state of the Soviet Union in 1947. Poland didn't recover true self-rule or sovereignty that was separated from the Soviet Union again until 1990, after another 51 years of effective occupation. In short, out of the past 225 years of history, Poland has been occupied or ruled by a foreign power in some fashion for 175 of those years, or 77% of the time. The aftermath of the Second World War and the Soviet occupation gave Poland a new geographic reality, however, that's maybe only marginally better than what it used to be before. After the war, a significant portion of eastern Poland was annexed directly into the Soviet Union, and the ethnic Polish residents were expelled. In compensation for this, Poland was given all of these formerly German lands that the Soviets had conquered and forced them to give up. The ethnic German populations here were expelled, and most of the expelled Polish population from the east ended up coming and resettling in these new lands. Because of this, the modern Polish state has achieved a significant coastline on the Baltic with 2 natural harbors, in the cities of Gdańsk and Szczecin, and after the...
Did you just hear the way he said Gdansk? Oh, that was painful. That was painful. I'm going to listen to it again, hang on. And I want to know how he says Szczecin.
with 2 natural harbors in the cities of Gdańsk and Szczecin, and after the collapse of the Eastern Bloc and
Painful.
communism after 1989, Poland has sought to distance herself from Russia and integrate further with the West. The new reality meant that Poland only shares a tiny border with her former occupier Russia here in the Kaliningrad enclave, which is separated from the rest of Russia by the now independent Baltic states and Belarus. But Poland's geography is still mostly flat and difficult to defend, save for a portion of the Carpathian mountain range in the south. And
I think if we're looking at the war, if we're looking at war, I think Poland is actually pretty good at the moment in terms of, yes, I know obviously Russia are going into into Ukraine, and Belarus are close with Russia. But I don't think Poland really, please correct me if you think I'm wrong or if you think differently, but I don't think Poland faces the same challenges in terms of having to fight anymore. At the end of the day, Poland's a part of NATO because we've had that since World War II. They're a part of NATO now, and that and I think that is a real threat to countries like Russia, because Russia is attacking Ukraine. Ukraine are not a part of NATO. As soon as Russia attack a NATO country, then all of NATO kicks in and it begins World War III. And I know Putin is a little bit mad, but I don't think he's stupid. He's not stupid, surely, so I don't think he would do that. And I think we've progressed. I think we've progressed a lot as Europe, or at least as central to Western Europe, enough to protect each other more and actually not let it happen again. Now, I know things like I said, the Russia-Ukraine war, and there's plenty more wars going on, but I think Poland is probably in its best place that it has been for, well, many, many years. And I think the flat land now is actually going to be a benefit for them to grow economically, for example.
And so, Poland joined NATO in 1990 and joined the European Union in 2004, effectively securing her geography with friendly states in almost every direction, save for potentially the East. Arguably for the first time since 1772, Poland's geographic position and independence became relatively secure and safe again after centuries of uncertainty in 1999 when she joined the NATO alliance.
I can honestly say I've not watched this video. This is the first time watching this video. And what I said is literally what they've just said. And I think that at least that reiterates it, that, they also believe, and I believe, that actually Poland is probably the safest it's ever been, or at least nowadays it's the safest it's been. And actually its flat land is going to be a benefit to them.
But recent events in the East, like what's been happening in Crimea between Ukraine and Russia, has made Poland weary and uneasy from her history. Poland joined the defense network of NATO to secure stronger allies that could compensate for her indefensible terrain, and she joined the European Union to help further those aims. Any attack by Russia or by anybody else on Poland would be considered an attack on every other NATO and EU member state, which would be almost suicidal for anybody to attempt.
Even
After
Russia.
Centuries of struggling to simply exist, Poland may have finally discovered the secret to staying alive when your country's geography is terrible.
Make friends.
Have a lot of strong friends. After all, Poland is not yet lost.
So, yeah, I think actually it makes sense, but I think the title of this video, Why Poland's Geography is the Worst, isn't necessarily accurate anymore. And it was accurate in history, but now that Poland has made friends, I don't think it's true. I think you may say, why is Poland's geography one of the best? It's interesting how time changes that statement, because, like I said, things like infrastructure, road infrastructure, trains, it allows for faster movement. It means you can manufacture things quicker. You can export things quicker, therefore financially improving Poland's situation, which then can improve the military force if need be. So actually nowadays, I think Poland's geography may be one of the best. You guys debate that in the comments down below. An interesting video. It goes through a lot of history that we've learnt before already. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe this video and the channel. And if you want to watch our trips to Poland, then go to Charlie and Rob. It's in the description down below. And check out all of our vlogs. We've been to Gdansk, or Charlie's been to Gdansk, Krakow, and Wrocław. So check them out, and I will catch you next time. Pa-pa.